Hi folks, my name is Rick Searing. I'm a solution architect for Tempered. And today I'd like to show you how to set up an integrated solution between Tempered's Airwall solution and Nozomi's Guardian. So what we're going to accomplish today is we'll describe all of the solution components, show you how to configure both the Tempered Airwall side and the Nozomi Guardian side for things to work together. And then we'll walk through a working environment to show you how you can expect it to all look once you have it up and running. So let's go ahead and get started. Before we jump into the hands-on configuration, let's take a look at the big picture. The Nozomi Guardian is deployed at a couple of locations across the globe, for example, and we've got a number of distributed sites where we want to look at packets. And those sites may already be secured by Tempered's Airwall, as shown here in the diagram. So the first step is really to acquire the data and port mirror the traffic that Nozomi wants to look at to be able to make its vulnerability assessments. And the way we do that is we'll set up a port mirror on the airwall, send the traffic to the Guardian, doesn't matter where it's located, and then it can go ahead and do its threat detection and analysis of that data. So what happens when it does detect something? So the alerts can then be sent back up to the conductor, which is the orchestration engine of Tempered, and the conductor could then act on those and say quarantine a particular device or a particular environment. So that's really the solution that we want to get to is kind of that detection and automated response. And today we're going to focus mostly on the initial phase, which is the port mirroring and making sure we get the data to the Guardian. Next, let's drill down and look at a little bit more detail in how are we going to get the data to the Nozomi so it can do its monitoring and visibility. Here's a simple example, and we'll talk about a couple of different scenarios. And I described physical airwall to physical airwall. So we've got a number of different models of the airwall that can be used, and those would typically be sized based on the remote environment. So we could put a really small, inexpensive airwall there if you're just monitoring a few devices, or we could put a 1U rack mount device if we would need to send gigabits per second. Over on the Nozomi side, where we're the destination for the mirrored traffic, this is an example of using our Airwall 500, and we're just going to send the data over to the Guardian, typically using either layer 2 GRE or ER span to the Guardian. And it's just connected into a port here. So end to end, the way this is going to look is over in the remote location, there's going to be a source of the traffic. So we can either capture on a particular interface, or we can have, we'll talk about other options as well. And then once you set up a destination, which will be the Guardian over at the remote site, as soon as we see traffic on this interface, we're going to establish a secure encrypted tunnel using host identity protocol and ESP, which can go through, even if these environments are not routable today, we'll use our relay technology to allow any two sites across the globe to connect to each other. So we establish that end-to-end encrypted tunnel, which is really important. It's not getting decrypted in the cloud somewhere by somewhere where there's another vulnerability. So we establish that tunnel end to end and deliver the packets just as they were seen on this interface into the Guardian. We could also do this with a virtual airwall on the Nozomi side. So this might all be installed in a hypervisor. That's actually what we're going to look at when we get into my detailed configuration. We've just got a VMware environment where I've installed both the Airwall and the Nozomi and plumbed them together using some virtual networking. On this source side, let's take a look at another option here, which is you may want to capture all traffic that is getting sent to the Airwall, meaning it's probably getting sent, it's either being accessed by a remote agent or getting sent to something else behind another Airwall. But you also might want to just hook up a tap or leverage a mirror from the local switch and send that to the Airwall. At that point, the Airwall, that way we're seeing everything that's in this localized environment, not just what gets sent to the Airwall. So it's kind of an important distinction there. We can support either one, so if you've got a tap or a local switch that can mirror all of the packets in that switch to us, again, we'll put that in an encrypted tunnel, send it all the way to the remote location where we've got our Guardian sitting, and deliver those packets just as they were seen here to the Guardian. Next, let's look at a specific example of a working solution. So in this example, I've got two different locations. We'll call it Building 1 and Building 2. The Airwall and Nozomi are installed over here in Building 1. So what I've set up is a virtual Guardian and a virtual Airwall and just a couple of port groups, and I'm going to link those together using a virtual switch. In this working example, the Guardian actually has a different network for its management interface than it does for its mirror interface. Over in the remote side, we're just going to have another Airwall, and we're going to capture traffic on a particular port. So in this working environment, the Airwall needs to be running 2.2.11 or later, and the Nozomi needs to be running 20.0.4 or later. So the first thing we'll do is install the virtual Guardian, and I won't go through all those steps, but we're just going to install the Guardian in this virtual environment. Then I'm going to go in and create the two different interfaces on the Guardian, so one for management and one for the mirror. And to set up the mirror, you actually go in via SSH and run the setup command and add a second interface. In my working example, I gave the Guardian an address of 10.10.10.20, and I'm actually making the Airwall interface the default gateway for that Guardian 10.10.10.1. It's not really needed for the mirror. They're on the same layer 2 network, obviously, but one nice benefit of providing the IP address here is we can ping the Guardian and make sure we can talk to it. So a couple of other notes. I found turning management filters off worked best. So in my case, I'm only monitoring the mirror interface, not necessarily the management port. That could be different in your environment. On the tempered side, if we look at Airwall 1, we're going to go add a port group, and it's going to be a regular overlay port group. It's not a mirror destination port group. That could be a little confusing. The mirror destination port group is when we want to send just unencapsulated traffic directly to a network analyzer or packet broker. In this case, it's going to actually be encapsulated in either GRE or ER-SPAN. And so in that case, we're simply setting up a regular overlay port group. So it's an isolated port group connected to port 4 in my environment. And we're going to give the Airwall an IP address of 10.10.10.1. Then we're going to add a device on the Airwall, which will be the Nozomi mirror. So I'm going to give it an address of 10.10.10.20. We'll just call it the mirror EM1 interface, and we'll assign port affinity to be the particular port group that we've set up for this. And just to note that the Guardian accepts with this configuration either GRE encapsulating IP or GRE with ER-SPAN type 1 or type 2. The nice thing about configuring these IP addresses is now I can go into the Airwall under Diagnostics, check connectivity, and I can go ahead and ping and make sure I can reach that Nozomi mirror interface. And then I can bounce over to Nozomi and click on the System and Network Interfaces option, and you should see that traffic reflected, and you should also see the EM1 interface change from is mirror should now be true. Now that we have both the Airwall and the Guardian set up and talking to each other, let's actually configure the port mirroring component so that we can get the packets mirrored from the source to the destination. So on the destination side, which is the port that the Nozomi Guardian is connected to, we're going to click on Ports and then Port Mirroring, and then we're going to go ahead and we're going to add a port mirroring, a mirror destination configuration. So we'll click the plus arrow here. And the port mirroring configuration will be enabled by default. and you're going to set up the packet destination to be the Nozomi device that you created. So this is a device with an IP address, just like any other device in the Tempered Airwall environment. So we'll add that as the destination, because remember, we're encapsulating the data. We're really just sending a packet with a destination IP that's going to be, all the real data is going to be encapsulated in GRE and ERSpan. And so we're really just sending this data to a device. There could be even a network in between. In our case, we're on the same layer 2 network here. And then you choose the encapsulation type. So in this case, I'm using ERSpan type 1, and you could set that to type 2 or whatever makes sense in your environment. And then you can also set up a Berkeley packet filter expression. So if you want to limit what data comes out of the Airwall and going to the Nozomi, you can do that here. If we switch over to the source side, so on Airwall 2 in our example environment, we'll go to the Ports tab and click on Port Mirroring, and we'll add a port mirroring configuration, and we're going to make it a source, and we can choose to capture on a particular interface. So in this case, we're just going to capture on port 2, and then you've got some other options that you can set up regarding the snap length, the GRE key, and you can also rate limit traffic. The destination is going to be the reason you configure the destination first over on Airwall 1 is it'll now show up as a pull down in this list. So you can choose which Airwall you're going to send the data to. So back to our big picture example, you could go into one remote site and say, hey, send this data to the Nozomi in Virginia, and for another one you could send it to Los Angeles, just by selecting that from the pull down here. So snap length is, how much of the packet do we send, and rate limit is we can rate limit up to a certain volume of traffic so you don't overburden either the network or the Airwall, and set some kind of reasonable limit there. And then the GRE key is a way to distinguish traffic from different locations. So this could be leveraged in the visibility environment to say, oh yeah, everything with GRE key 15 is coming from this particular site in Chicago. And then you can also apply a Berkeley packet filter expression on the source side. The source side takes precedence over the destination side, and you could just say, hey, I only want to see all the traffic, related to a particular host or related to a particular port. So there's a lot of different options here that could make the mirroring more efficient and not sending every packet, but that's completely up to you. Once we have that turned on, we should be able to jump over to the Nozomi environment again and look at that interfaces area and see traffic starting to come in, as long as there's something on that source interface. And next we'll go ahead and take a look at a working environment so you can see it happen real time. All right, finally, let's go take a look at a working environment and run some traffic into the Guardian and confirm that it's all working. So first of all, let's just take a quick peek at what we have set up in the virtual environment where both the Guardian and the Airwall exist. We've got a couple of different port groups set up connected into a virtual switch. The security policy associated with these port groups in the switch are to allow promiscuous mode and forged transmits and MAC changes. It's kind of a lenient environment because we want to make sure packets can get to the Guardian as they're sent. And then if we go take a look at the Guardian, so for right now, I've got everything, no packets have been sent. So you can see we see 0 assets. And if we pop over to the network interfaces, you'll see that we've got a monitor interface, but no traffic yet. So now let's go look at the Airwall side. So on Airwall 1, where we've connected in the Nozomi Guardian, we've got a port group. Again, it's an overlay port group. We're actually connected in here to port 4. I've set up an overlay port group, associated it with this interface, and I've given it an address of 10.10.10.1. And then I've added a local device and called it the Nozomi Device Mirror EM1, and it's got an IP address, and then I can go ahead, like I showed earlier, and ping that interface. And when we do, you should be able to pop over here and see the traffic show up here, and we should see our mirror turn to, once this refreshes, this will turn to true as well. But this kind of confirms, hey, I've got everything talking on both sides. Next, we'll go in and set up, just review again the port mirroring settings. So we'll go to port mirroring on the Nozomi side, and we'll click. Oh, I've already added it. You can see it's enabled. Again, the packet destination is the Nozomi device itself, and then your options for encapsulation are both GRE, transparent Ethernet bridging, ER-span type 1, 2, and 3. And again, my understanding is what's supported currently is type 1, type 2, and type 3 on the Nozomi side, or type 1 and type 2 on the Nozomi side, and also GRE encapsulating IP, but not the transparent Ethernet bridging. So I would just stick with ER-span type 1, type 2 for now, and that'll work great. And again, you can configure the Berkeley packet filter here on the destination side. So at this point, let's go look at the source side. Again, this source could be an airwall anywhere on the planet, and we'll build a secure tunnel between these two through the relay if necessary. So over on Airwall 2, I've got a set of ports. I've just got a couple of ports here, and I've got a port here with a network connected to it. It happens to be the 172.16.2 network. And I want to go mirror everything in this environment on this port of this airwall back to the Guardian. So we'll click on port mirroring. I already have a configuration set up, and I've set it up to capture on port 2, send the traffic over to airwall 1, which is where we have the Nozomi set up. And again, you can optionally configure these other options like the GRE key to make this site unique, or the BPF expression. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this on and click Update Settings. At this point, we should see, if we go into Diagnostics, we should see a secure tunnel established between the two, because once it's seen a little bit of traffic, we should easily see a tunnel established, and we do have a tunnel here. And if we come over to the Nozomi side, you can see we're starting to see some traffic come in. And if we go to the dashboard, you can see we already see some assets. So if I click on that, sure enough, there's my 172.16.2 devices showing up already, and confirming that we've got traffic from this remote site landing in the Guardian. Let's go ahead and run one final test. So over in that environment, I'm going to go ahead and ping a unique IP address. Even if I don't have connectivity to it, this could be a device trying to reach out to command and control or something like that we might want to flag as a definite alert, something trying to reach out to the internet. If we come over here, take a look at the Guardian side, take a look at these sessions, and we should see the traffic destined for 9999. So I could either just kind of scroll through this list, or I can go ahead and search for 9.9.9. And sure enough, there's that ping that I just tried to send from 172.16.2.21. And so that's just another, so just kind of confirming, here's attempts to the public internet, and Nozomi's doing all its cool stuff already once it has access to the packets. So in conclusion, we went ahead and looked at the solution components both from the Tempered side and the Nozomi side, showed you how to configure both the Tempered Airwall and the Nozomi Guardian for them to work together. And then we looked at a working example of packets actually flowing from one airwall across a network to another airwall and dropping those into the Guardian for analysis. So with the solution, we can provide the enforcement component of Tempered's Airwall solution with the monitoring and threat detection of Nozomi, and really enhance the security of our environment. And as I mentioned in the beginning, it's really kind of a phase one. There's lots of cool things where we can go from here, including monitoring those alerts in the Guardian and potentially automatically applying that enforcement. So for example, we detect that device we were talking about tries to reach out to the internet. Sounds like something got misconfigured on it, or maybe there's a potential virus on that particular device, and we can automatically quarantine that device using Tempered Airwall. So thanks for listening. Hopefully this has been helpful, and have a great day.